Alright, so this is the last month of 2019. By the time I'm recording this, it's already 2020. Happy New Year to all of y'all. I try to catch up with as many things as possible in the last month, and I think I watched way too many for me to just sit down and talk about them and start yammering away for an hour or two. So I decided to make a video essay. Saves you time, and I think it's definitely quicker and more entertaining that way. And also, before we start the list, the best of the year video will come after the final catch up. I usually like to do my best of the year list after January, allowing me to have one extra month to catch up with everything that I haven't. This year, mainly Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I really want to watch that, and a ton of movies I haven't watched yet. 1917, Just Mercy, and Clemency are getting a wide release in January, so I just want to wait for them before I make that list. Anyway, let's start with Fast Color. Is this almost superhero-esque science fiction premiere last year at South by, but got a release just a few months ago. It's about this woman who has this almost condition-like power she can't entirely control, while the law enforcement and scientists are trying to catch her and study her. You know, the material we've seen a million times. I think for the low budget they had, the film came out okay. It's very well shot, and some of the special effects, even though they're not so hard to pull off, they're effectively done and enough for the story. But overall, I think it's the script that dragged the movie down for me. The lack of plot and conflict and the overstuffing exposition bore me after a while. And whenever you have this kind of cat and mouse chase film, every time we cut to the government subplot bullshit thing, or whatever you want to call it, it's like, why the fuck are we even here? why are we doing here? As if we think about them as the story progresses, where we clearly don't. The sound design isn't bad. The score, at first I really liked it, but after a few listens I thought the second half of the score is significantly more exciting than the first one after a while. But to sum it up, you've seen this plenty of times before, but it isn't that bad.
It's disgrace.
In the Tall Grass is currently on Netflix. It's based on Stephen King's and his son's short novel of the same name. Pretty much it's just a couple wander into the from a boy's crying, and we spend the next 90 minutes in there trying to get out. Almost like a metaphor when watching this movie. There are good shots here and there sprinkled in, the way they make good use of CGI and hidden cuts, and I think it's a very cool idea that they fuck with the timeline, in which at some point into the story you don't know what happened first and what happened last. I think it's quite fun from that aspect, but it all comes down to that script. This is a script where I saw uncertainties in the writers, where they're not confident with writing exposition, so they decide to spoon feed you the theme of what I'm trying to say. The dialogue I thought was quite stiff, and just the writing tanked in a lot of moments they're building, but I do see a potential where this movie could be fun, but it turned out very disposable. Imagine Climax, but not as good. It's about this artist who's going through a creative block but got hung up on drug, and every time she takes it she doesn't remember the night before and what happened. At first I was sitting there like, this is kind of boring, nothing's really happening, and by the midpoint something happens that got me like, alright, this is where we're going. Oh yeah, let's go. But you have to sit through that first 45 minutes to get there, right? Other than that, this is a dirty looking, hairy and grainy looking film stringed together with music video montages one after the other, and a lot of forced dialogues. This is one of those kinds of dialogues where the writers think they're so clever with the jokes and one-liners, but they came off cheesy as hell. Some good camera work and shots, and just that second half is a lot more fun and crazy. Holiday is a Danish film that was also screened last year at Sundance, but came out in the States this year and made $2,678 worldwide. I think it gives, a pretty good look at these misogynistic criminals' personal lives through the lens of one of the girlfriends. There are scenes that dragged out way longer than you would think, just to make you uncomfortable in certain contexts, but it fleshes out the story role and the characters. Great. Now with that out of the way, the problem I have with this one is the fact that it doesn't have any plot. Nothing really happens throughout the film, and then some shit happens in the last 20 minutes and the film ends. I guess they put so much emphasis on giving the audience a glimpse of what it's like into that world, they forgot to tell a story with a human touch.
Ideas are dangerous things.
I saw this movie just because of that crazy ass thumbnail on YouTube homepage. Every year you see these impossible but insane horror movie thumbnails, but then say to yourself, I'm gonna watch that one. But you never do. Well, I actually caught this one as I'm kind of interested in the subject matter and curious about what they're gonna do with it. It's a waste of material. We follow a man who becomes obsessed with parallel realities after the death of his daughter and starts questioning his own memories. It's like you have this concept that's quite fascinating and decided to tell a story that contains dream sequences after dream sequences after dream sequences, and just count how many times the main character wakes up just from a dream. It's also that movie that has a voiceover for no reason and has tons of Google's research and webpage looking montages. There's a character called Matt, who I call the shit character in movies. If you've been following this channel, you know I call certain characters shit characters, where if you take Matt out of the story, nothing would have changed. The coolest part of the movie, easily the last 5 minutes. Styx or Styx is a German film about a woman who saw a shipwreckage and she has the decision to make before the help show up. This will be compared to All Is Lost a lot, as there's not a lot of dialogue, but I was not nearly as invested in this one as I was All Is Lost. The line delivery is stale as hell whenever she starts talking, but I don't know if it's the writing or the delivery. Could be both, but I think if one of those did a better job, it would not come off the way it did. I think this one felt a little pretentious considering what they're trying to say about the refugee crisis and whatnot, natural selection and evolution. And it is a gorgeous looking film, I give them that sometimes feel a little documentary-esque, which is fine, but it's a 90-something minute that feels significantly longer. It's boring. I haven't seen the original. In this version, I see a good movie somewhere in there with the material. But and you know me, I don't really usually trash movies, but this one's trash.
All we have is now.
Starting with Waves, which has been getting a lot of buzz out there, I thought it was alright, It was the same director who did It Comes at Night and Krisha, and something tells me that he's really into aspect ratio. Don't know what though. I saw a lot of resemblance with The Place Beyond the Pines, which covers a long-term consequence of a small mistake. I think it has one of the best, or at least better, ensembles of the year. The acting here is terrific, the cinematography, there's a lot of trippy spinning one takes and cuts, which sometimes I'm really into, and sometimes it comes off a little annoying. I do think it's a little too long, just a tad bit. Some of the music choices, I'm not the biggest fan, but holy damn is a depressing story. It's pretty much the same as the first one. The problem you have with the first one, you probably still do with this one. And what makes the first one good is probably in this one as well. They still stuck with a particular way to deliver exposition with non-player characters, repeating the same lines over and over again, but still didn't do that with the filmmaking, which would make it more game-like. I enjoy how these actors play off each other and how they play against type. I wish they had spent more time and effort setting up these characters and their dynamics though, because you don't really care for the entire runtime. Instead, they spend a lot of time on jokes, which I don't have a problem per se, but it just feels like they spend more time crafting jokes than the characters. I think this one was not as good as the first one, but just as fun. This scene is obviously the best levels of the entire movie, but my biggest concern with it is how it can withstand time, because they set up an interesting sequel, a sequel that I would kind of want to see, and when the third one comes out eventually, I feel like this one's going to be seen as the filler movie that is needed to get where they left off in the first one to the third. So on that level, this can totally be a filler, but we'll see how it happens.
You ready to start fighting back?
Richard Jewell is another that has been getting a lot of good reviews. You like it? Well, I don't. I think it's an important story that deserves to be told and heard, but why a feature? It tells the true story of Richard Jewell, who saves a bunch of people at a Centennial Olympic Park bombing, but was depicted as a villain by the media. I just think the tone of the filmmakers are going for isn't quite right. A lot of moments where it's supposed to be comedic, but feel cringeworthy because some horrible shit is going on in the background. And there are a lot of loose ends that make my ass itch, like whatever happened to Olivia Wilde's character at the end. What about the shit FBI did to Richard? There's a comment about taxes and audio recordings, and all of this stuff was just hanging in the air. Overall, I'm just not sure about Richard Jewell as a dramatic character. Like, we're supposed to emphasize with him, but at the same time, he's making it so difficult for us. Look, when I look at this movie, personally, I think Richard might be the most annoying guy in real life, but you can't go hard on him because he saved a bunch of people. So it can go both ways. He might actually be a sweetheart. I don't know him. In the film, you can call him naive. In my opinion, he's kind of a dumbass. Am I saying he should be discredited for whatever he did in the park and be seen as this obnoxious person? Absolutely not. But I think the approach of the film and the character make it so hard for me to side with this guy dramatically. I think a short film, a documentary, even short book, or for that matters, will probably do a way better job than a feature, because Richard Jewell I don't feel like he belongs in a feature film. Aniara is this weird Swedish 2001 movie based on a poem in the 50s. It talks about how climate change made Earth inhabitable in the near future, and the people get on this spaceship that's basically a flying city to get to Mars, but when they accidentally goes off course, they need to think of a way to get back without running out of food, water, supply, and sanity. And this shit is crazy. It's very low budget. You can see it from the production design. It's all very plain and simple, but the film looks actually pretty good. I like the idea the film is going for, the message, but I'm still very torn on the execution. I think the main character is a bit too boring for us to follow. She doesn't really do anything, but I think overall it's quite interesting. Also, what's up with Swedish people and group sex?
So are you guys gonna kill us, or
Perfect stream it. Villains is about Pennywise and that girl from It Follows breaks into some rich guy's home and they struggle to get out because, the owners are fucked up. I like the performances and the casting, the dark humor, and I had a ton of fun watching it. They're very precise with character choices, with how they act and what they do. Four characters just work really well together. So that's it. The hair thing is a little bit done, but it's a fun movie overall.
I miss my hands. I gotta stay.
Yeah. It's pretty much it's about Will Smith playing Will Smith, the greatest spy in the world, accidentally turned into a pigeon, and that's the movie. A lot of jokes didn't land. Few of them did, but you don't really care at the end, so that's hot. Imagine Sicario, but with fishes and a documentary. It's about an endangered species called vaquitas. Apparently there's only less than 22 left in the entire planet. How they got that number, I don't really know. I'm not really sure. But it is an important piece of knowledge that reflects with what's going on with society today. It does come off a little preachy and unfocused with the structure, and the people in the documentary seem a bit unprofessional with what they do too. Obviously, I don't know what's up. But it just seems that way to me from a third perspective. There are some great scenes here, and I think it deserves the word of mouth.
Ready to go to war?
oh yeah.
This is The Big Short of 2019. I mean, it's the same writer, but I found myself enjoy The Big Short a lot more than this one. I don't know if it's the subject matter, how this one seemed a little bit rushed, and I guess it's an okay stream in. We follow three women who set out to expose the CEO of Fox News for sexual harassment just a couple of years ago. The makeup is top notch. Charlize almost exactly looks like Megyn Kelly. Her deep voice, at first I felt a bit weird, but then afterwards I looked up Megyn Kelly in real life. Oh, that's how she sounds like. Okay, I genuinely did not enjoy the editing and the cinematography. I found them very distracting. Margot Robbie, easily the best performance of the film. I watched this only because Madeline Brewer is in it, and I thought it was okay. It's about two fugitives who go to one of their childhood friends to rob her, but there are rules they have to follow and games they have to play, and it's twisted and it gets wild. It is very well shot, very stylish, sometimes maybe a little bit style over substance, but never really overboard. And by the end, It just seems like they didn't know how to end the film and they dragged it for a long time before it fades to black. But overall, I have fun with this one. Pretty good, stream it. It's a spirit gun. Harpoon is another one where characters trapped in the middle of the ocean and they need to survive. I don't have much problem with this one. It was consistently entertaining. All three actors are not bad. It's also quite stylish and funny where it cuts to black and white film stocks and a narrator makes sure you keep up with the exposition. It's actually quite fun. There's maybe one scene that I thought they drawn out a little too much, but other than that, I'm very happy with this one. The ending, I'm mostly satisfied with. Maybe just a little bit predictable.
You want me to do this to you?
Don't you want to do it to me?
This guy is doing The Grudge next year, and I'm pretty excited. Piercing is about this basically a sociopath who tries to murder a prostitute he called over, and things just didn't go as planned. I think you probably need a very distinct and precise taste in order to really love this movie. It is a 75-minute slow burn, but in a very unsettling way. The production looks pretty good, and I really like the 80s horror style music. Did I like it? I will never touch it again. This is that documentary the Oscars gonna love. I think it can probably work better as a documentary short, but then again, I would not be talking about it if it was. So we follow a loving and adorable beekeeper and her story with her mother and her neighbor, and it got hella sad. That's all let's move on.
That you're an evil man.
Starting with Skin, one of the more unique one of the year, about a neo-Nazi trying to get out the movement and the hardship that comes along with that. This one is packed, not a moment dragged. It has a fantastic pacing. The story kicks off just in this first few scenes. The performances were great, especially Jamie Bell. I do think the character web and the story world can be a lot fatter, consider everyone besides the main character seem a little flat and empty and fake. The dynamics can be blown into full gear, but a lot of it were left hanging. The transformation of the main character felt a little bit too sudden for me. It's like all of a sudden he decided to do this thing. I don't think it's organic enough to make him do that choice. It can probably be benefited from telling it chronologically because it isn't, but overall it's so incredible at some point I forgot it's actually a true story. The Last Black Man in San Francisco talks about the last black man in San Francisco. Good story, good music, good acting, fantastic cinematography, and it talks about the gap between cultures, generations, and classes. A bit too long and slow, maybe just a little bit. There's a theory about the ending, which makes it all the more interesting.
And I'll keep you and your dad.
Casey Affleck wrote, directed, produced, and starred in this one. Elizabeth Moss was in this one briefly, which caught me by surprise. I personally really love it. Its quietness, its smooth pacing. It is set in a dystopian future where most female populations have been mysteriously wiped out, and the father character who Casey plays in this film is trying everything to protect his daughter. It almost got to a must-watch since I really like this movie, but I think there's something with certain execution on things that I'm not the biggest fan of. It does come off a little preachy and too out there, but as a whole, I really love this film. Go check it out.
Through the city. I mean, they're not conscious of it, but it's there.
I called you.
I love the concept of this film. It's about a house tuner. That's right, not a tuner that tunes your piano or your guitar or your instruments. He tunes your house. It's the theory of every subtle sound your apartment makes can have a major impact on your life without you realizing it. The sound of the refrigerator or your toaster or your heater. I find the concept to be super intriguing. The film also tackles the idea of free will as well. However, I do think it's a tiny misfire consider after having a good concept, they don't have anywhere else to go with the plot, resulting in a bland story. The protagonist can be fleshed out a lot more. The antagonist can be too, but I would still recommend watching it. I watched it at home, and it's one of those things where I was like, hold up, is that the sound coming from the movie? Or is this the sound of my actual house?
Tomorrow.
No. If it's going to come out, it's going to come out the right way.
The Report is this super fast-paced talking movie about Adam Driver trying to publicize what actually happened when CIA's detention interrogation program, whether if torturing prisoners really worked or not. Not a scene where the film slows down. There are, of course, a lot of details of government stuff I don't entirely understand, but man, did this movie make Zero Dark 30 look bad. No wonder this is on the Obama end of the year list.
Out of bounds.
This shit is crazy. I don't want to spoil anything, but do expect a unique experience. You can see this as a straight comedy or dark comedy, but if you look into it, this is one of the most in-your-face, the loudest, the most obvious and interesting social satire of the year. I have to think about it and let it sink in because I just saw this yesterday, I think. I have to let it sink in. It might move to a must-watch. Dark Waters is not only a good film, it is an important film. It's the type of movie after you walk out, it stays with you for quite some time. It's about the corruption of a huge company that's been poisoning the American people for years for profit, and it's still happening to this day. I think the pacing is a little bit off as it jumps forwards in time in very rapid way, but that editing, I haven't heard anyone talk about the editing of this thing because I think this is one of the best edited films of the year.
Together.
Easily one of the best films of the year. Scarlett, beautiful. Adam, beautiful. The direction, very nice. The dialogue and how raw it is. It just... I don't have to tell you about the plot other than that it's about a divorce, but the characters in this film are some of the realest I've ever seen. If I were to nitpick, I think some moments can be even fleshed out and linger maybe a little longer, but even that, I'm reaching for shit. The most impressive part of it is the details and the Easter eggs in the background. And it's just crazy how they actually put something in the background to look at in a drama like this. Easily one of the best of the year. Manos or Monos is a Spanish film that follows a group of soldiers who watch over a prisoner in the mountain, and I do not say this lightly. This movie felt like every shot is trying to tell you something. I know that sentence gets thrown around a lot, but trust me when I say this because I haven't said that in 2019. Give me some credit, all right? Every shot, it feels like it's trying to say something. It talks about how we treat youth and what war can do to people. This is, if not at least one of the best looking films of the year for me. It is beautifully shot and it's crazy. It looks fantastic, yet so ugly at the same time of what they're trying to say and how they're saying it. One of the best foreign films I've seen this year.
Yeah.
I don't have any more things to say about this one. Everything is already said. All I'm going to say is that I liked it. 3.5 hours flew by. The aging looks really good. I still like Goodfellas more. Little Monster is about a kindergarten teacher who tries everything to protect her children from a zombie breakout by pretending everything is just a game. Bro, if this isn't poetry, I don't know what is. This is the perfect balance of horror, comedy, dark comedy, and dramas all at the same time. This is hilarious. Everyone is terrific. There's not a scene that dragged, but I do wish there had been probably one more sequence or one more plot point to flesh out the characters a little bit more. The cinematography is a bit, maybe just a little bit bland, but other than that, Little Monster is a very personal film for the director, and you should definitely go check it out.
Suddenly, she was free.
One of the best edited films of the year, for sure. The director also did The Babadook, in case you're not interested yet. It's one of the best told revenge tales I've seen in a while. I do think it's maybe just a little long, especially the dream sequences, but as contradicting as it is, I also like how they take their time to build up this character and this adventure. And I got so immersed, I never snapped out of that journey until it was over. One of my favorites of the year, for sure. This isn't about watching a good or a bad film anymore. Cats, I feel like it's a rite of passage. You have to be able to say, yeah, I watched Cats in theater when it came out. Yeah, I made a video about it. Go check it out.
This is me. This is how I win.
Everyone had anxiety walking out of this movie, myself included. I haven't watched Good Time yet, but I heard it's very similar to the approach. Pretty much it's about this jewelry dealer played by Adam Sandler who wants to sell a gem, but all of a sudden he's caught up in all these money and gambling issues. People are after him. He's after people, some relationship drama, and it just doesn't stop. This film doesn't have a single quiet moment. Even if there is, kinda, the tension is so high. You're sitting there waiting for some shit to go down in every scene. It's so unsettling. It doesn't let you out. Every character in this one tries to talk over the other, and you're almost like a character in the film trying to get everyone to listen. It's like, bro, stop, listen to me. But no one listens to you. It's crazy. The sound mixing and editing, one of the best of the year, maybe in a while for sure. The editing is seamless and is just as one huge giant sequence that doesn't let you rest. And I absolutely loved it. The more I think about it, that ending, not a lot of people liked it. I thought it was kind of good. And I totally understand why they made that choice by the end. Alright, this is the last movie of the month. You remember when this scene happened in Lady Bird and you suddenly realized you were watching one of the best films of the year? Little Woman has that moment for me too. I loved it. I thought Loose is the best ensemble of the year. This one might actually top that. It's told in non-chronological order and it's absolutely riveted. It mostly focuses on family drama and dynamics and everything seems so real. Like Lady Bird, I forgot I was watching a movie. I do think maybe, just maybe a little bit too long, a tad bit, maybe 5 or 10 minutes too long. Trim that off. You get a very dense story. Again, I'm almost reaching for it at this point, but highly recommended. One of the best of the year. Can't wait to see Greta's next film. I know I've said like one of the best films of the year in this video, but give my work some credit. I don't say that phrase too often, but this, I guess, award season is just packed with good movies and everyone can kind of agree with that. There's just so many good movies coming out in 2019. Yeah, so that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. I will still do a final catch up by the end of January, so I have one extra month to catch up with everything. There are still a lot of things I haven't watched yet, and after that I will make my best of the year list maybe some point in February, but it's coming after January, that's for sure. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next month. Bye.